All right, we got some friends in the front here. This is great. Hi, everybody. If we haven't met yet, my name's Leah Callon-Butler. I'm the director of a company called Emphasis. Also sit on the board of the Blockchain Game Alliance and write a regular opinion column for CoinDesk. So thanks to Benny for inviting me to be here. I was meant to be interviewing him today, but Jayden and I have just met, and we're going to do this. This is great.
Yeah. Let's do it.
So this has been an amazing day. As Benny mentioned, it's the anniversary of ERC-6551, and I kind of thought that it would be fun to maybe look back and look forward in terms of the year that was and the year to come. Before we do that, Jayden, do you want to just introduce yourself in case anyone here hasn't met you yet?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Jayden. I'm the CTO at Future Primitive. We've been building crazy NFT experiments. You saw Perma. That's kind of a wild use of NFTs. That's a good summary of just what we do. We think NFTs have an immense amount of potential, and we've been trying to build the best things that we can to make NFTs into something that everybody uses on a daily basis. So yeah, I work on dev things. I work on smart contracts. I work on just kind of picturing what we can build.
Love it. And I guess you might have some good metrics to add here, but I think in the past year, so we've had over 100,000 token-bound accounts deployed.
Yep. Yeah, we just crossed 100,000 a week or two ago.
That's amazing. Congratulations. That's awesome. Yeah. And over 750 people registered for today, I think, as well, which is just awesome. I think that's definitely demonstrating that there's a lot of interest in this space. So I'm thinking we've heard a lot today about, the amazing use cases and people that are already using the standard, but I'd love to hear from you in terms of what you've seen over the past 12 months, adoption challenges, and maybe some that were surprising, that you didn't actually anticipate.
Yeah, it's been really cool to see. I think one of the things I've been most surprised by is how quickly people pick up on this idea of NFTs that are more than just an object. As soon as you're like, hey, we're taking NFTs and we're turning them into something that can be an identity, or it can be something that takes actions, or it kind of breaks outside the bounds what people normally think of as NFTs, it's like watching a light bulb go off in people's heads. I think I've been surprised at how quickly people get there. But some of the challenges have been, we're still operating at a pretty low level, right? We're talking about ERCs and low-level smart contracts and interacting with a smart account. And a lot of that is so new and early. The interfaces to it are really low level. And we're doing our best to build high-level interfaces, right? Things like Perma, where you didn't see a single 0x address in there. You have no idea it's an NFT or a TBA, and it just works for you. But I think it's going to be a while until every single experience is like that. Every single experience is just approachable, and the concept of an object in the experience that you're using, the fact that it's an NFT is no longer like a special thing, like, ooh, look at this, it's an NFT. It's just a thing. It's just an object on the internet. So I think part of the challenge is just that it's so early and so technical, and there are so many existing problems in the crypto space that are unsolved, that are in the process of being solved, that a lot of that just gets pushed on to users, pushed on to people who are trying to use applications and people who are trying to build applications. So the majority of the work we've done on token-bound and ERC-6551 in the past year is, what are those sharp edges? What are those things that people need to know way too much about in order to build something compelling? How do we soften those? How do we make it easier to build on top of? How do we make interfaces and SDKs and applications that are easy to approach and easy to adopt? So I think that's the primary thing. One is teaching people that NFTs can be more than just an object and showing them exactly how to implement that. The other is making sure that it's really easy to implement. It's really easy to use NFTs rather than just hold them.
Yeah, I think it's so hard, when you've got this world-changing idea that people haven't seen before, finding a way to be able to get people on board with that concept and help them understand the possibilities rather than just kind of getting caught up in the technical details of it is really difficult. I remember when I first met Benny, I think at Token 2049 last year in Singapore, I was so excited about 6551 because it reminded me of when NFTs first started. And so I do a lot in the Web3 gaming space, and at the time, I was working with Yield Guild Games in the Philippines, and we were trying to explain to people the idea of renting NFTs and that you could earn yield off an NFT, and this idea of having utility with digital assets was just so hard to get into people's minds. But now we take it for granted, and I kind of thought with 6551, it's all over again. But yes, it's super difficult to get people on board with that. Going forward, what are the things that you think that we need to overcome in, say, the next 12 months to take it to the next level of adoption?
Absolutely. I think one of the big ones is what we announced this morning is how do we make your Tokenbound account work just like you would expect a wallet to? And we built up this whole ecosystem of cryptocurrency wallets, and people are in various stages of onboarding to those and using those. But there's certain ways you just expect things to work, right? You expect when you hit send transaction, you wait a couple of seconds and then it's just there and it's finished. And you expect it to just kind of work across chain, right? You have a wallet and you use it on Base or Blast or whatever chain you want to use it on. And some of those things don't work exactly out of the box with Tokenbound accounts just because it's a newer construct, because it's not the private key wallet that we've had for a very, very long time. It's a new thing. And so I think part of going forward in the future is how do we make Tokenbound accounts work just like you would expect a wallet to work? How do we make it approachable to people who are already using cryptocurrency applications, who are onboarding to this new way of doing things on the internet? And then how do we take it even further from there? And not to just people who know about the cryptocurrency world and are onboarding to those products. How do we make it so that your experience of objects on the internet is just natively tied to Tokenbound accounts, is natively tied to NFTs, without you needing to learn all about the crazy complexities of how it works under the hood? How can we build a world in which the best way to build any kind of on-chain objects or on-chain experiences is just to build it with cryptocurrency rails? It's not a question of like self-custody and open financial value on one side and crappy UX and really confusing paradigms on the other. How do we get to a world where the actual best way that you can build an application, the most user-friendly way, the most the way that just makes sense if you're an application developer, is to use these tools and these paradigms of NFTs and Tokenbound accounts? I think another thing that we have to do is we have to help people understand how this fits into their mental model of the world, because we're so used to objects on the internet being things that exist in a database that I don't own, or in a game that I play but I can't export them. How do we get people used to the concept of internet native objects that exist on chain, that can be portable between experiences? And I think Tokenbound accounts can be helpful in that, because Tokenbound accounts can take NFTs from something that's just an object, that it's kind of tough for people to wrap their minds around what is an NFT. Is it a digital trading card? Is it a financial asset? Is it like, it's kind of tough to fit into their mental model of the world. But you say, hey, it's your character in a game, and everybody knows that, right? And it's like, oh, yeah, I've played a game before. I've had a character who's collected skins and who's like done all these quests and accrued all these points. That's a metaphor that makes sense, and a metaphor that was really hard to do with NFTs before. But now we have ways for those metaphors from the existing web that people are really used to be created using NFTs natively. And I think that will be really helpful.
I just want to go back to something that you mentioned a little while ago about this sort of cross-chain experience and, you know, being able to mint and use and enjoy things on different chains. I hear people talking a lot about 6551 in relation to utility, but what about in terms of cross-chain interoperability? And like, where do you see that going in the next year or so?
Yeah, I think we've kind of gotten used to some ways of doing things with tokens in the crypto world, right? We've gotten used to, if you want to take your token from one chain to another, you have to use a bridge, right? You have to send it to a contract you don't control, wait like 15 minutes, an hour for it to cross the chain, and then, you know, it's in your wallet on the other chain, and now that's like the canonical representation of your object. And that works well, and it's you know, it works really well for fungible tokens, more or less. It works much less well for non-fungible tokens, where there's supposed to be a canonical object. And now you're creating clones and you're locking things up. The NFT still exists on the origin chain, and now it also exists on another chain. It's a metaphor that kind of breaks this concept of an object on the internet. And I think Tokenbound accounts can be a new paradigm for doing NFT things on chain, and really just doing internet object things on the internet, where you just own an object, it sits in your custody, in your wallets, in your hand, and you use it, right? I have my phone sits in my hand, I just use it. I bring it with me. When I go from the US to Canada, my phone comes with me, and I just use it anywhere I want to use it. In order to make NFTs really usable as internet objects, NFTs have to have that same experience. It's just an object I hold and I use. I don't have to worry about the details of how I transfer it from, you know, one chain to another, or how I integrate with this application or that application. It should just be something that works out of the box. And so that's the world we're building towards. We're making steps toward it. You know, we now have Tokenbound accounts that can work on any chain by sending execution data over a bridge, rather than sending the NFT itself over a bridge, which gives you one canonical identity for your NFT in the form of a token-bound account that exists on every chain at the same address. Anybody who knows your NFT can determine your token-bound account address and can send you any kind of asset on any chain before you've ever done anything with your token-bound account. Just by your NFT being an NFT, being an object on the internet, and it inherits these properties of being able to own assets, take actions, and work on any chain.
I really look forward to the day when we can laugh about how difficult it was to be bridging things cross-chain and stuff like that. So I think one of the best measures of knowing that you're onto something valuable is how much competition you have. And, I've definitely heard people talking about L1s that, arguably have TBAs baked in, like Flow, Aptos, Sui. How are you thinking about that going forward? Because that's probably not something that we were thinking about a year ago.
Totally. Yeah, it's really neat. I think the different architectures for doing decentralized applications are really compelling, right? The Ethereum ecosystem has an immense amount of adoption, an immense amount of developer tooling, and that's only growing. It's kind of, once you get developers on board and users on board, you have some really strong network effects. And so I think it'll be difficult for other ecosystems to get that same level of network effects, but I don't think it's impossible. I think if there's a really compelling use case, if there's really compelling reasons to be there and build, those will take off as well. I think there are other models for doing blockchains that lend themselves really well towards the idea of assets that own assets and assets that can take actions. In the case of Move and Aptos-based chains, instead of using an account model where you have a wallet and your wallet does transactions, they use an object model where everything just is an object, and objects own objects and objects takes actions. And so you don't really need this extra abstraction of a token-bound account that gives an account to a wallet, because everything was already an object to begin with. Everything was already a token or an NFT and already capable of owning things. And that draws on a lot of research from like programming language design and decentralized systems design. And so I think it's a great design. And we're focused on how can we make the things that we currently have, the things that currently have adoption in the Ethereum ecosystem, as maximally usable as possible, so that the things of the Ethereum ecosystem are able to capture the complexities of objects in the real world and objects in the virtual world. So the best way to represent an object on the internet is to do it with an NFT and to do it on Ethereum.
It sounds so simple, but I feel like that's a massive shift. Like thinking about, I could sign into a platform with my Kevin or my crypto dick butt. Like, it's quite different to think about that as like something that you could log in with. Well, I think we've only got about 45 minutes left of the... No, I'm chatting. Don't worry. One last question. What do you reckon we need to really blow the top off ERC-6551, like other than Bitcoin hitting ATH in like a week? What do you think we need to see to really make this thing go absolutely parabolic in terms of adoption?
I would say two things. One is people who are building really compelling experiences to wrap their heads around token-bound accounts and to use them in their applications. I think the single thing that drives adoption more than anything else is really compelling experiences. Financialization can do some amount, right? You get some people through the door who want to make a quick buck or who are there because the number is going up. But long term and on the long run, you get the most value out of experiences that are just inherently better than anything else you've used. Yeah. The fact that you can use an experience where you're earning real assets that you really own, that doesn't get shut down when the company goes under, but you can keep playing that game or interacting with those assets. That's just an inherently better experience. And people who are building those experiences and thinking about those things, that's the single most valuable thing that can drive 6551 adoption. And we've seen that today, right? Like a year ago when we came to Denver and we're like, hey, we're giving NFTs wallets. People looked at us kind of weird. They're like, what are you're giving my NFT as a wallet? Like my NFT can own things? What's going on?
But it wasn't too long ago that people were like, non-fungible token?
Yeah.
Like why would you want that?
You put a cat on the blockchain? Why are there blockchain cats? Yeah. So I think it's that, right? Like we've seen an incredible amount of people building on top of it. And really it's everybody here in this room who is building applications with tokens, whether you're using token-bound accounts or not, building applications for Ethereum, building applications where the things that you interact with, the things that you own are yours by default, are decentralized by default, are able to be valued by default. People who build on that paradigm, that's the thing that will make this thing last for a long time.
Love it. Well, thank you, and congratulations. We're a year in. May it be the first of many. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you all for coming.